January 7, 2026, began like any other winter morning in South Minneapolis, with the city slowly waking up under a pale sunrise. The streets were quiet, the air crisp, and neighbors went about their routines, unaware of the turmoil about to unfold. But that calm was shattered near the intersection of 34th Street and Portland Avenue, as flashing lights and sirens pierced the stillness. A confrontation erupted between federal immigration agents and a local resident, escalating rapidly and ending in tragedy. In a matter of moments, a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent fired their weapon, killing 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good inside her red SUV, as stunned onlookers watched in disbelief. The incident sent shockwaves through a community still healing from past traumas, reigniting outrage, sorrow, and urgent questions nationwide. What began as a routine immigration enforcement action quickly spiraled into confusion, fear, and violence, leaving residents shaken and searching for answers. Witnesses described a tense standoff, with unmarked ICE vehicles blocking the street and agents in tactical gear moving swiftly, their presence both intimidating and bewildering to those nearby. The sudden eruption of gunfire was a terrifying intrusion for residents, many of whom dove for cover or rushed to check on loved ones. The location, just blocks from where George Floyd was murdered, made the tragedy even more significant for Minneapolis, a city still grappling with the legacy of police violence. For many, this incident felt like a painful echo of the past, reopening wounds that had barely begun to heal. As word spread, crowds gathered to mourn, demand answers, and support one another. The red SUV, its window shattered, became a stark symbol of loss and unanswered questions. Initial information was scarce and conflicting, fueling speculation, anxiety, and fear throughout the neighborhood and beyond. How could a seemingly ordinary morning in a quiet neighborhood turn so suddenly and violently deadly? Who was Renee Nicole Good, the woman whose life was cut short, and what led to this fatal encounter that would haunt so many? Once again, Minneapolis found itself thrust into the center of a national conversation about law enforcement, justice, and the meaning of safety in America. Behind the headlines was Renee Nicole Good, a woman whose story is far more than a name in the news. Her life, though tragically brief, touched many people in ways that can't be measured by headlines or statistics. At just 37 years old, Renee's life was cut short, leaving a void in the hearts of those who knew her best. To her family, she was a loving mother, always putting her child first and finding joy in the small moments they shared together. She was also a poet, pouring her thoughts and emotions onto the page, and a friend who could be counted on for a listening ear or a warm laugh. Her mother, Donna Ganger, described her as compassionate and creative, a woman who saw beauty in the world and tried to share it with others. After her ex-husband's death in 2023, Renee faced the challenges of single motherhood, raising her 6-year-old son alone with unwavering dedication and strength. Friends remember her as resilient, someone who faced adversity with quiet courage and never lost her sense of hope. She was devoted to her child, making sure he felt loved and supported, even in the toughest times. Renee had no history of activism or protest. Her mother believes she was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, a tragic victim of circumstances beyond her control. The loss is immeasurable for her family, a gentle spirit, a central figure in her son's life, and a source of comfort and love, now gone forever. The tragedy is compounded by the fact that her young son has now lost both parents, facing a future forever changed. Renee was a part of the Minneapolis community, a familiar face at local markets and neighborhood gatherings, not an abstract figure in a political debate. Her passion for writing and poetry reflected her thoughtful, introspective nature, and her words often brought comfort to those around her. The community mourns not just a victim, but a mother, a neighbor, and a friend whose absence is deeply felt. Her mother's words paint a portrait of love and loss, making her violent death even harder to comprehend for all who knew her. The story of Renee's life is a powerful reminder of the human cost behind the headlines, a life full of promise, love, and meaning, now remembered by those she left behind. Eyewitnesses quickly began to share what they saw that morning. Residents described unmarked ICE vehicles boxing in Renee's red SUV, agents in tactical gear swarming her car. One witness saw an agent aggressively trying to open the driver's door, reaching inside. The scene was chaotic. Renee appeared panicked, trying to escape. Witnesses said her car reversed slightly, then moved forward, steering away from the agents, not toward them. This directly contradicted the official narrative that she tried to run agents over. The agent in front fired 3 shots into the car, despite several feet of space between him and the SUV. No witnesses saw agents struck or knocked down. Their accounts suggested fear and panic, not aggression, and raised immediate doubts about the justification for lethal force. 2 conflicting stories emerged almost immediately. Federal officials, including DHS and President Trump, claimed Renee Good tried to run over agents, calling the shooting justified. They labeled the incident an act of domestic terrorism and quickly exonerated the agent. Local leaders, including Mayor Jacob Frey and Governor Tim Walz, condemned the federal narrative as propaganda and demanded an independent investigation. They accused federal agents of creating chaos and acting recklessly. The clash exposed a deep rift between federal and local authorities. While the federal government insisted on self-defense, local officials saw an avoidable tragedy caused by an aggressive federal operation. Attorney General Keith Ellison pointed to the massive ICE deployment as a key factor. The disagreement set the stage for a prolonged battle over the truth. Minneapolis became a flashpoint in the national debate over law enforcement accountability. Bystander videos quickly surfaced, challenging the federal account. Multiple angles showed Renee's SUV boxed in by unmarked vehicles, agents approaching in tactical gear. An agent tried to open her door, reaching inside, triggering her to reverse, then move forward, steering away from the agent. The videos showed clear space between the SUV and the agent when shots were fired. No evidence supported claims that agents were struck or in immediate danger. The footage aligned with witness accounts, a panicked driver, not a violent attacker. These videos became central to public understanding, undermining the official narrative. The visual evidence fueled demands for accountability and transparency. The shooting sparked immediate outrage across Minneapolis and Minnesota. Governor Walz called the tragedy avoidable and criticized the federal government's tactics. He placed National Guard troops on standby, insisting no more federal help was needed. Mayor Frey demanded ICE agents leave the city, blaming them for escalating chaos. City officials and activists called for the removal of ICE, seeing their presence as a threat. Crowds gathered at the scene to mourn, protest, and demand justice. The proximity to George Floyd's murder site made the moment even more charged. Attorney General Ellison promised a thorough state investigation, vowing accountability. The community's grief and anger fueled a renewed call for justice and systemic change. The tragedy became a rallying point for those demanding an end to excessive force. The shooting didn't happen in isolation. It was part of a broader federal crackdown. Around 2,000 federal agents were operating in Minneapolis, creating fear and tension, especially in immigrant communities. Agents in unmarked vehicles and tactical gear acted with little local coordination, heightening anxiety. The Trump administration's stance on federal immunity gave agents a sense of impunity. Local leaders were kept in the dark about the scale of operations, leading to dangerous confusion. Activists had warned for months that aggressive ICE tactics would lead to violence. For many, the shooting was the tragic, predictable result of prioritizing enforcement over community safety. Minneapolis became a stage for a national conflict over immigration and law enforcement. The state's investigation faces a major obstacle: no body camera footage from ICE agents. Despite body cameras being standard for local police, ICE agents in Minneapolis weren't required to wear them. A 2022 executive order mandating body cameras for federal agents was rescinded, leaving a gap in transparency. Investigators must rely on bystander videos and witness accounts, making the truth harder to establish. The lack of body cameras protects agents from accountability and undermines public trust. Immediate federal statements justifying the shooting further prejudiced the investigation. Lawmakers are now pushing for a body camera mandate, using the tragedy as a catalyst for reform. The absence of official footage has turned a policy debate into a national issue about justice and transparency. As Minneapolis mourns, unanswered questions and demands for justice grow louder. The city is gripped by a sense of loss, but also by a determination to uncover the truth behind Renee Good's tragic death. In the flickering candlelight, neighbors and strangers alike gather, united by grief and a shared resolve to seek answers. The community wants transparency. Why was the federal operation so secretive? Residents are frustrated by the lack of information, and city officials face mounting pressure to explain what really happened that day. People are demanding accountability from those in power. Who fired the fatal shots? The absence of clear answers has only fueled speculation and suspicion, leaving many to wonder if the truth is being hidden. Could Renee's death have been prevented? Her family and supporters are haunted by the possibility that a different approach might have saved her life. Conflicting narratives and lack of body camera footage have deepened mistrust. Each new statement from officials seems to raise more doubts, and the absence of crucial evidence leaves the public feeling betrayed. Calls for ICE to leave the city intensify, as many now see the agency as a source of chaos. The debate over federal involvement in local law enforcement has reached a boiling point, with activists and residents demanding change. The fight for justice for Renee Good is now part of a larger struggle over federal law enforcement's role in American cities. Her story has become a rallying cry for those who want to see reform and accountability at every level. The state's investigation, led by Attorney General Ellison, faces legal and political hurdles, including federal immunity claims. Navigating these obstacles will be difficult, but the pursuit of justice continues, even as the legal battle grows more complex. Congressional hearings and funding threats loom as the battle for accountability moves to Washington. Lawmakers are now debating the future of federal operations in cities like Minneapolis, and the outcome could reshape national policy. At the heart of it all is a mother, a poet, and a community member whose life was cut short. Renee's memory is honored by those who loved her, and her story has touched people far beyond her neighborhood. Her 6-year-old son is now an orphan, and her family and city grieve. The pain of her loss is felt deeply, a reminder of the human cost behind the headlines. The demand for truth and change echoes through Minneapolis, a city once again at the center of America's fight for justice. The movement sparked by Renee's death continues to grow, as people refuse to let her story be forgotten.